And we're back again this year with Ali. There's many reasons for that, but the main reason is that what we talked about last year, apparently with the audience out there, was so popular, Ali. You are the most
I
downloaded
know.
and listened to on
It
all
was
platforms because I said first to you it's on Spotify, so it might not be. Just set your expectation, and then I went back and checked, and we just put you in the newsletter this week as well. That you actually the most downloaded and most engaged conversation from last year. And what we talked about last year is about how to set better goals and
yeah.
actually achieve these goals and make them into daily habits. And yeah, it will be in the newsletter, but go back and listen to number 193, I think, with Ellie Gordon and start there. But we're gonna extend today where we're gonna be talking a bit about that thing about having a vision for life. So not just a goal, but what I often say is it's a 3 to 10 year out in the future kind of state of life.
Mm.
And we're gonna talk about how you actually bring that into daily life, which I thought is really the interesting bit because we can all paint a picture, but how do we actually get there? So welcome to the show again, Ali. It's a great pleasure to have you here.
Michael, thanks again for having me. It's just becoming quite a regular thing isn't it, every year. So yeah, no,
Yeah.
lovely to be here again. Happy Christmas.
Yeah, yeah, you too. It's just around the corner, isn't it? So I think actually I think I can't remember you shared a quote and I think it sets very well the scene before we jump in to talk about vision. You said send a vision here. There's a quote saying to accomplish great things, we will not only but also dream, not only plan, but also believe. And I think that quote really, in a way, frames very well what vision work is, and I
Mm.
have been so lucky that you're taking me through the vision work, so I've been doing it. But can you talk a bit about like what is the vision work? Because many will probably think vision statements like in companies and so on. That's the first thing they will think. Or how Singermans, we talked a lot here on the podcast, do visions in about their business, but it's not. It's about your life and
Yeah.
the kind of life you want to live.
So just going back to the goals thing, actually, the vision piece is the most important piece, and to my mind, the vision piece is very much breaks off. It's a imagine with everything out of the way, what would you like your life to look like? And that really comes down to your health, your career, your financials, where you'd like to live, how you'd like to be, how you'd like to be remembered, the friendships you'd like to have, the personal growth. It's all levels, right? But what it is and this is I think where so many people get stuck. They sort of self-censor. They say, "Oh, I can't do that because," and actually this piece of work is the nicest bit because it's the what. It's the just absolutely everything out there on a piece of paper, on a laptop. I know it's through talking to you. It takes time because it just starts to come. We get the brakes off. So really visioning is you actually imagined life without any thoughts of how am I going to get there? That's not that is normally what will get in the way in terms of people overthinking, but I can't do that because there's this needs to happen, this needs to happen. We don't do that. We do a lot of work on actually what would you like your life to look like around sort of success, fulfillment, and happiness as well.
So why is it so important to work on this vision work? Because it seems like something very untangible, very far out in the future when it describes
Yeah,
it. So why is it so important that we actually take this sometimes maybe not as concrete as goals? We talked about SMART goals last year. We were very
yeah,
specific about how you break down what you
yeah.
want in 2023. But here we are talking a bit more about a state, I would say, of the future. But why is it so important that you do that work? Because one of the conversation we had is that, as you said as well, this is more important actually than writing the goal, because actually the quality of your goals will determine the quality by your vision. So
The
they are
vision.
so
Yeah,
connected.
yeah. Why is it important? Because it's having a plan is incredibly important. And if you were going to build a house, for instance, you wouldn't just start putting a few bricks together and a bit of concrete and just start building something without a vision of a plan. You wouldn't try and go traveling to another destination without some kind of plan of how you're going to get there. And we often, and I was one of those people, I have to say, that was very much just set out, had a, you know, great career, but had no sense of where I wanted to be or what I wanted to be. And what I've discovered over the last 4 or 5 years of doing this work, it's incredibly important to have some sense of where you're going. And once you can get that down on a piece of paper and then work towards the goals and actions, it's surprising how much starts to come into your life. And because subconsciously, and this is where I'm going to get a little bit coachy, subconsciously, it's like a scout going out and looking for those things. And I don't know if you've ever had a sense of, if you're looking to buy a car, for instance, and or rent a car, or you see a car on a motorway and think, I've not seen that car ever before. I quite like to have a look at that. And then suddenly you're seeing that car everywhere. That's because your subconscious has suddenly become aware of it. And the vision is something that you can look at weekly, monthly, or nightly, and remind yourself why you're doing what you're doing. And it is quite hard at the beginning, I have to say, and we've had this discussion, actually starting to think about what I do want rather than what I don't want. And that's the hard bit, because I think we spend a lot of time talking about what we don't want and not enough time
Mm.
about what we do want. And that is why I feel it's so incredibly important, because it starts to pull you towards where you want to go.
And I think it's like my own experience is also that if you have to revisit this every year, because before we did the work together, Ali, I had my own version of it, but actually what I found out was that, and I was very much inspired from visioning statements in business and, where are we in 10 years? And I thought I'll bring that into my probably like very much from the work of Ari and Singermans in the US they do in business.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but actually I forgot the very critical things I did in the process with you. I actually started to become very concrete about it. How does that house look?
yes.
How many countries do we actually live in? What kind of environment is in a house? How are we actually interacting as a family? Uh, what does it mean to have finance in order? What does that mean from an income point of view? What kind of things is not there anymore? Is there actually there's no mortgage, for example? That's not a concern. And actually about how your children are feeling and doing. And that's where I felt it became, and I'm actually still doing this work because I actually thought, "Oh, yeah, I already have something, I'm gonna do it." But actually, because suddenly you also have to go and align that if you have a partner, because partner and
Yeah,
I can
absolutely. Yeah.
align those. And I think that's really where I think the vision work, why you should do it, because suddenly you also acknowledge and get happy when you see that happens. Because if you haven't put down the goalpost, I think, for that, or the feeling for that, or how that be. So that will be like my take on the work we did together and where I'm now, and I'm still, my goal is to have ready for the new year, but I can see it's like a very deep piece of work you're doing because you're revisiting yourself on many levels, and I think that's the interesting bit compared to setting goals. We go a bit, well, what is the difference? Maybe, and I think the difference is that you get very clear about where the compass is going, not what task or result that needs to be achieved, and you actually don't know when you're gonna get it, but it's out there. That's why you get up every morning. It's the purpose and direction, in a way, as I see it, that you get very, very clear about. Which sometimes when it, especially in these time where we talked a bit about before the show, we talked about it the last couple of months, the mental load on leaders,
Yeah.
individuals in the moment, in the
Absolutely.
world we live in is insane, and people are just, most people I've met the last couple of weeks just ready for Christmas. So we should explain to them, Ali, maybe a bit, what is your view on the difference between, we talked about goals last year and vision. What is the key difference between these practices? I think I touched on some of it, but I think it would be good
The
for
the
from
key
your
between
process point of view. Yeah.
between vision and goals.
Yeah, like the key
Yeah,
things that makes a
yeah.
difference.
For me, it's very much the goals are the sort of lily pads that you have to sort of jump onto to make these things happen. And can I just talk a couple of things that you said
Yeah.
actually? The vision piece is just, it's there's so much. You're absolutely right. It's so much more because you start. It's very layered because you get to understand the individual. Whenever I'm working with someone, for instance, so much of my work is about understanding how to lead yourself, and you can't lead unless you really understand what you're looking for. And I know that so many of the sort of the business owners, the leaders that I work with, they use this work to go and talk to their own employees and understand what they need as well. It's quite a nice guideline. The other piece is that this is also about talking about how you want to feel, how
Mm,
you actually feel about all this, and what is your opinion about yourself.
mm,
One of the things when I started the coaching business was talking to people and asking them to come and work with me. I felt quite salesy, and actually, I thought I'm going to write down what my opinion of this is. That this is work that I would have loved to have happened with me 20 years ago. So I'm coming up with this with authenticity. I'm doing this because it really matters to me, and I know the impact I can have on that individual. And I wrote those things down within my documents about, the opinions about myself. So it's so much more layered than just how much money do I want to earn? What's the house I want to live in? Because all those things are what are the feelings that those bring up for you, because those are the feelings you want to recapture almost every day. Why we're getting up and doing those things while all the noise of the world is going on around us. There's some key things that we're driving towards. And one of the things that I did, a bit like you, I wrote my vision piece every year, and I wasn't looking at it enough. I had a very pretty clear idea of where I wanted to take my life and where I wanted to take the business. So I just wrote out sort of six key things on a business side from the document, and six key things from the on the personal side. And I just look at that over a cup of coffee every morning just to remind myself where I want to be going, and how I want to feel, what kind of father I want to be, what kind of business coach I want to be. So the vision piece is very, very much the picture you're painting of of how you want to be, and the goals are the stepping stones to get to that place.
mm.
And we're talking about next week, Mark, and this is where everyone gets very, oh God, I can't do this. And like we're having a conversation this week with someone who says wants to start their own business, and you could see there was a lot going on in their heads, but I can't, what about this? What about this? And like, okay, let's start to get that out onto this document and start to read out what are your concerns? What are the roadblocks that are going to get in the way? Which is the next part of the vision piece is, okay, so if this is where you want to be, what are the roadblocks that are going to get in the way? And then we can start to get those out of our head. And I know you're a big Stoic fan. Seneca has this view or had this view that we live so much in our heads, and so there we go. There we go. We have more imagination than reality.
We
So
suffer more in
exactly
reality than
right.
imagination in
Yeah,
reality, yeah.
yeah.
So,
And
that's one of my
I
favorite quotes, yeah.
I think if there's one message we could get across to everybody that's listening or watching, is we suffer so much in our imagination, and
Yeah,
actually the reality is always different. And getting it out and reading it and going, okay, so if that's what you're feeling about this particular thing, that this obstacle is just too high. What if we break it down? What if we to eat the elephant piece by piece and start to break that down? And is a lot of what you're thinking true? So yes. So to go back to your question, is a long answer, but the vision piece is the really big picture. Breaks are off. This is how I'd love to be living. The goals and actions are the stepping stones that we build out to get to that place. Does that make sense?
totally makes sense. I think also
Yeah.
one thing you said is also about how the vision, the difference is that the vision is also about how you feel versus how you get there, and I
Yes.
think that feel was very much where it started slowing me down because actually how will I like to feel in the future? It's very hard to write.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
It is.
and and you need to I definitely found out I've then been focusing on in the morning as the first time writing on it because you need to be quite clear headed because it's not a 6 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the evening, because then you're not gonna get the best thing out. And it's so important because where are you gonna be in 10 years time? And it's a very good question. Where are you gonna be? And what kind of life and what kind of 10 years can disappear, a decade can disappear so quick if you don't think about where you want to
Yeah,
be.
you're absolutely right, Michael. And this is not about perfection. We're not. We're all imperfect. We're not
Mm,
perfection here. We're not looking for ultra control. By writing a document, it doesn't mean that you kind of ultra controlled about your destiny, but or where you want to be. But you've got a sense of where you'd like to be. And as that picture starts to build, and we're not talking about doing your history homework on a Sunday night so that you get marked on a Monday morning. We're talking about something that you can dip into for half an hour, a cup of coffee, maybe you've done some exercise and you just dip into and think, actually, what I'd love to be feeling is this feeling right after the run, and you start to build this sort of mental, emotional, physical picture of how you'd like to be. And my experience with working with people is that people have so much more in them than they think, and so much of the work is to clear those muddy waters and get some real clarity on what people are actually capable of. And we're so stuck in the sort of day to day all the time that it's actually this is a, this document is a space where you can start to explore for yourself and just see, okay, so where would I like to be? It's a bit of an oasis actually away from the craziness of life. And of course you're going to be going, oh, this is impossible, this is impossible. I get it. But actually starting to build the picture, you're almost tying a thread around yourself just to start to pull you towards where you'd like to be. And going back to things, we're not looking for perfection here. We're looking for a sense of direction.
yeah. So I think, how does this actually work, Ali? I thought, if people work with you or should do
Yeah.
this work, what are the like the practical steps? Because I think, oh, that's great. I would like to have a start working on the envision thing, but how do you actually start writing? What is the
Writing it
secret?
down.
Is there some secret? Is there like a secret step? Is there like the golden laws of vision writing?
The copywriter vision. No, I think if somebody wants to do it themselves, the way I would structure is start with the kind of career perhaps you want to have. Do you know what? There's no rules to this in terms of where you start. If it's something as simple as where would you like your health to be? I'd like to be really fit. I feel like the in the best shape possible. Okay, so what does that will I be doing for that? I may be, talk myself cold water therapy, exercising, eating the right food. And that's all we need at this stage. We're not putting the goals and actions. It's just starting to put the ideas together. And if you work through sort of what's the attitude and mindset I would love to have, what is the career and business I'd love to have, what is the financial situation I'd like to be in? What is the health I'd like to be in? Where would I like to be living? The big thing I did, piece of work, I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast, was 4, 5 years ago when I'd sort of reached a point in my life where I knew I needed to change things up, was just wrote my obituary and said, "Okay, how do I want to be remembered at my funeral?" And that was a big piece as well. And actually, when I read that from people I work with, that's a really quite a moment actually that when we read it again, like, okay, and how far away is that moment from how you're feeling the moment? It's quite some distance. So that's of course when we do start to do the work. So just start to write those, take those titles and just how do you want to feel? And what do your financials look like? What does your career? What would you love to be doing? This is very much kind of the wish fulfillment piece. This is the what of how you want to be. And don't censor yourself. If somebody comes away from this, like, don't stop censoring yourself. Stop thinking that none of this is possible, because I've got lots of experience of working with people who do come to me who've really lost their sense of purpose, lost their sense of why, sense of where they are, or they're just being eaten alive by leadership, all running their own business. And actually, once we get very much clearer on how they want to feel and where they're going, that it's just fundamental changes that go on. Like, okay, right, I need to stop. I was reading a great statement the other day, which was said, which I'm starting to use a lot now, and I've been talking to clients about is, if I'm saying yes to this, what am I saying no to?
Yeah.
And if I like 5 years ago, I was saying yes to business no to my family, and that's completely reversed now. So it's those kind of things that start to come out, and it's you can write this over 6 months, over a year if you want to, if it's on your own.
Yeah, and I think also it's again coming back to it's a not a document like an assignment that you said earlier that's done
Right.
as hard as well. It's like something that you carry with you, and it's
Yes.
like something you can come back to and you can refine 1% every day. It's a life work and it's never done.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you go at it like that's how I went at it, and that's probably because I have very fallen in love with Stoic philosophy, and there's a thing in Stoic philosophy saying you have to live every day as the last day, and you are dying. That's the only thing that's for sure. You're dying every day.
We are, of
So how are
course.
you gonna spend every minute of that? So
Yeah.
crafting my best life is probably my most important job for everything I do, because that will fuel into the quality of the work I do, the quality of relationship I have, the quality of the time I spend with my family. And you can see if you don't have that compass in place, you can very quickly lose sense in this world we live in now. And I definitely felt the last couple of years there has been periods where I thought, what the hell? Like, what is the idea with all this?
Yeah.
Well, why is nothing working
Yeah.
sometimes, what I'm
Yeah.
doing wrong? Like, and you're hungering for some kind of breakthrough that's not going to come because you actually don't know what you are looking for. You're just focusing on results. And therefore, you don't see the process and enjoy that process as it is to get into the future. It's a process. And it's
You
anything.
absolutely spot on. Like, and it's not a piece of work. You can't think of it like that, like it's like a homework. It's very emotive, and just touch on that. Interesting enough, is that one of the one of the key things that we actually spend time is talking about the relationships an individual wants to have, and that is it's always comes back to start with very, very surface, and like, okay, let's really dig in here. And actually, once the sluice gates open, and actually start to write down, this is the ratio I'd love to have with my partner, my wife, my kids. It's funny how certain podcasts will come into your life. Suddenly you listen and you think, oh my goodness, this is exactly what I've been talking about. I need to write some of this down. And it also starts to spark conversations within the relationship as well. Hey, listen, what are you getting out of this relationship? And how are you feeling in this relationship? Where would you like to be in 10 years' time? Where do you see us as a couple being in 10 years' time? And because you've got a sense of your own journey, you can also add that into the conversation and start to ask really pretty profound questions together. And again, and going back to we all lead these incredibly busy lives, and as couples, you can very much start to sort of, you start to focus on the kids and you forget about each other. And this is right about bringing it back to okay, what is it about this individual that I was first attracted to? What I want, do I want them to feel? How do I want to feel in the relationship? Do you see how it's layers and layers and layers and layers? And you're not on your own on a blank piece of paper. You've got so many books and podcasts and uh, that you can listen to and read, or YouTube it. And as you're starting to write it, things start to draw into your life, and the picture starts to be drawn, and to be drawn. And it's a form of journaling, really. That's what it really is, but with titles. I would say just journaling things out, and just wish fulfillment, and just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Just whatever comes to mind, and it will
Yeah.
shape.
I like that. It's like journaling with a framework, and actually you can get some small breakthroughs and clarity as you work
Yes.
through the document. I found it very, first I just wrote a really fast draft, and now I'm going
Yeah.
back on each area from relationship to finance and refining that. But I can see that will take time because suddenly, as you said, or listening something, or I
Yeah.
saw an article I normally
Yeah.
wouldn't grab. I said, "Oh, that's interesting."
Yeah.
Um, and one of them was around transition, how you're managing transition, your ability to say no. And I was like, I'm quite good at saying no. Am I actually good at saying no? And then you So I think, how would you actually like to say no? Because and it doesn't mean you say no to everything. I think no is about respecting your vision and the work you're doing and taking the time to do that work that really matters. The 20% to give 80%. But again, like I had a huge reflection on that because when it gets hard and the mental load increase, you will often just say yes to any opportunity around the corner. And then if
Yeah.
something goes wrong, you get very frustrated because you were actually on the wrong opportunity, maybe, or the wrong yes, or you said no to family, which especially you mentioned have small kids, but I'm in myself. It's a really ongoing struggle because the family evolves so quickly. As the kids evolve, you evolve, and also everything is about the kids, as you say. How do you break out of that from a relationship point of view as well, and set that clear, intention to find out where are we going? Because where you were going when before you got kids, we had lots of time to talk. It's very different now when you have kids, and priority changes because nobody knows what it is to like having kids before they have them themselves, and how hard it actually is, and how it challenges you so much. It's like you look in your mirror now. I can look at my 80-year-old boy and think, "Oh man, I said that. Oh, that's nuts. That was not smart." You know?
And actually touching on that point as well, what the document also helps you with, because I think we live in a world where you're told you can do everything and be
Mm.
everything.
Yeah.
And I just don't follow that at all. I think that there are some things that if you want to achieve, if you're taking big if you want to achieve big things, and not everybody wants to, some people just want to live a very sort of happy, calm, fulfilled life. But if you want to have some big wins, then you have to take some big swings. And when you're taking those big swings, if you look at your sort of circle of life in terms of the key components, there will be some things that you might have to let go, that you just can't juggle absolutely everything. People get very caught up in this story that I needed to be a number 10 on my relationships, number 10 on my health, number 10 on my friendships, number 10 on my personal growth. I'm like, wow, that sounds a really exhausting life.
Yeah.
Uh, and again, through the documents and through values, which you and I talk a lot about, you really get to a sense of kind of, okay, this is what's really important to me.
Yeah.
And if I really want to get to this place, and it's one of the questions I ask, is to say, okay, so look, if that's a great big vision, that's going to take a certain amount of work. What are you prepared to give up in that? And who do you need to be in order to achieve those things? So I think I think we have to be very careful in terms of thinking we have to do everything. And this document is about being brilliant at absolutely everything. What it actually starts to come out is that, okay, so if I want to achieve this, there are certain elements of my life that I'm going to have to just dial down a bit.
Yeah.
Or when it comes to your health, dial up perhaps.
Yeah. And that's really the hard bit. I think
Yeah.
letting go or saying no is actually quite hard, or ask for help. Quite interesting.
Asking
I
for
had
help.
a
Yeah.
different podcast conversation with a totally different something about, people's lack of ability to ask in
Mm.
general because they're afraid to be rejected. That's principally the underlying, or looking that they are lacking knowledge or insight, because people love to help in principle. So there's also lots of people that can help you if you struggle with that. I maybe say, no, no, I actually don't want you to do that in a work context. I'm
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
perfectly fine to do that. You don't need to be involved in that.
You make a really good point, Michael, and we've talked a lot about this, and I think it's Stephen Covey, or it's somebody else, is talking about the sum of the five people you're surrounded with.
Yeah,
And I have a really fabulous friend actually who I'm setting up a business with next year. Female coach who I can talk to about absolutely anything, and she can phone me and talk to me about anything that she needs. I think we need those people in our lives, because you're right. You have moments of, especially if you're running a business, self doubt, and oh God, and all the other things, all the other balls that we need to be juggling. And I think everybody needs somebody like that, that you can be completely vulnerable with. And again, going back to the vision piece is you start to look at one of the questions that I asked in the document is who you surrounded with. And that is often about the people that we have to let go, first of all, the kind of the people that are exhausting. They're just not energy givers. They sap loads of energy out of you. They just come with all their bag of woes and just kind of load those up and actually give nothing into your life. And then you start to look at, okay, so if I want to get to this place, who do I need to start talking to? Who do I need to start being surrounded by? And that again, it starts to question all those parts of your life as well. So having some sort of key individuals in your life that can really support those plans as well and actually be there to listen to you when when the going gets rough is also very key. So again, yeah, you start to look at all those key people that you surround yourself with.
That's super interesting as people will reflect. I just wrote it down to myself as well, like assessing that as well.
Yeah.
And it doesn't actually mean that they need you just maybe need to spend less time with them at
Yeah.
some time. But that's
Choose,
what I've
choose.
learned as well. Like I
Yeah.
love them, but they're
Yep.
not they're not helping me really. They're not the 20% of people that drives my vision. And you need them to take the decision maybe to find out where do I manage that in a way. I know there's just some people they are in your life and that's how it is. And you need to accept that. But I think there's a really good exercise in that because you actually need to be very clear on that Stephen Covey circle of 5 people. And sometimes some of them go away and then they come back. I also learned that through
Yeah.
life that
Yeah.
they've been there for many years and then there's a period where you need something else and then totally the universe just shifts something around or you make it happen because you envision that had that. And then they come back again at another point in life where actually you'll
Right.
need that help. And I think that's really interesting. And I think often people think about it when I've been talking to people, they look at it like these successful business people or that's not always. There's people with different qualities you need in that circle as well. You need people
Yeah,
that
sure. Yeah,
yeah,
you're right. And I'd love to say that the way that I assess these things is if I see an email or get a phone call from that individual, I see them flashing up or I see the email. If my stomach goes, "Oh, great," then
mm,
I know that they're people that I want in my life. If I go again, then I know they're not people that I want to see lots of the times. And it's quite a nice way of just doing it. I had a
yeah,
boss actually quite a number of years ago. Whenever he used to ring me, normally on a Monday morning, with a very, very quick "Hi, how are you?" which was meaningless. It was then, one of my restaurants was in trouble or something had happened over the weekend. But whenever I used to see his
oh,
number, I thought my stomach used to do that horrible drop and like, "Oh god, what's going on?" And it's just something I just really didn't want in my life and actually quite quickly decided that that was it. I didn't want them in my life anymore. So I think that's a really nice way of being able to do it. I
I love
really
that.
Yeah,
Very
really, really.
practical, very, very cool. How do we
Yeah.
bring this to life? We wanna touch on before we run out of time. There's lots of good stuff here, but how do we bring it to life on a daily level? You talked a bit about that you take this you've simplified something in the vision statement, and you look at it every
Yeah,
day to
yeah,
make
yeah,
sure it's alive, and it's not
yeah.
just once a year it comes out.
Yeah, so the way I've built it into my life and I'm always working with clients about that is trying to find some time in the morning. I read a book about 15 years ago called The Miracle Morning, which was about really sort of creating space in your morning, getting up early and having some sort of key components, exercise, some meditation, or some silence, bit of affirmation work, bit of visualization, reading. And I've just built that now into to I kind of revisited the book because someone was asking me about morning routines. And I said, actually, there's a brilliant book I've been doing for years and I've forgotten to recommend it. And so many people were just really enjoying it. It's such a simple little
Yeah.
book. And through that, I took my vision piece, which is 10 or 11 pages, and just broke it down to sort of 6 key things that I wanted to have in my professional life and how I was seeing the future for my professional life, and also 6 things I wanted for my personal life. And as I said so earlier, I just sit down there, if I've dropped the kids off or it's very early in the morning, I just sit there, have a cup of coffee, and I just read it. It takes me all of 5 minutes, Michael, and it just reminds me, "Oh, yeah, great." And I cannot tell you the energy shift that can give, just that, "Okay, this is why I'm doing it. This is what I'm doing." I mean, listen, I'm very lucky. I love what I do for a living or a vocation, but it just reminds me I've got a big vision of how I want the business to be. It just reminds me what I need to be doing and why I'm doing it. For me, it's my why and my purpose is about the kids. So it just reminds you, and then that is a great platform to set your whole day out. It really is, but you have to do the work, and once you've done the vision piece, by the way, you don't you don't have to rewrite it every year. That is pretty much in place. You might have to touch
Yeah.
up on it every year, but really that's once it's done, and that's just it's just living and breathing that all the time. Does
Yeah.
that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
I really like the idea about that, try to bring it out as much as possible and work on it exactly. That's really my goal now because I didn't have that. I have that in my Notion thing. I open it maybe once a month
Yeah.
and oh yeah, yeah, I'm on the right direction. But then you get into the hustle and bustles.
Yeah.
And when we talk, so, oh, this is clever because actually then you remind yourself every day there's actually a reason why I need to do the work I need to do today. And it's okay. Some of it is really good fun and some of it's gonna be hard, but it needs to be done because you put in your vision. That's what you want to achieve. You want to, and you have to say no to things, for example.
Yeah, it just helps you. It helps
Yeah.
you say
Yeah.
yes to the right things, no to the wrong things. And actually, sorry, just to add in there, just to my left, a vision board as well.
Yeah.
Having visually for some people written down is enough to kind of build that swell of kind of excitement. For others, it's a vision board, and I'm a huge believer in vision boards. It's all most of the top athletes, actors, business people, they use a vision board. If you were to build a business picture, if you were to come and say, "Look, this is what we want to do with the business," you'd show somebody a board of vision, and it would be exciting, and it would capture the audience. And again, I don't know why people are so sort of a vision board. Why not put pictures of kind of the house you'd like to live in, or physically how you'd like to feel, what you're doing with the kids if you've got kids. It's a really, again, it's a visual reminder, and it's there next to me every day in the office all the time for me. So I've just got these trigger points around the place all the time. So it's just reminding me about what I'm trying to achieve with my life, and for the kids as well, actually.
Yeah, I love that, Ali. Other thing, like what I was thinking of talking about, it's like you almost create, the environment for what
Yeah.
you want. And
Yeah.
it's already happening unconscious. You don't even have to stop up and look at it. You just have to pass your eye over it. Like
Yeah.
over here, I would have what a great day looks for me. I would have my values over here. I have my goals for 2023. So just like I don't read them systematic every day, but at some
No.
point I'll stop up and have a look. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. It's like we're actually moving on that. So again, it gives you that, okay, it gives sense on to the next thing. So you actually have the energy to complete the
Yeah.
mountain of
Yeah.
work or tasks we all have.
Yeah.
What is one of the, typical blockers you see with people when they start this work? You mentioned some of them already
We
that you
did a
sort of
podcast a couple of years ago on beliefs, didn't we? And I think
yeah,
honestly, it's so much of this is around your belief system,
yeah,
because you're and I think I said on it same, because it's something I stand by all the time, is your beliefs drive your thoughts, drive your emotions, drive your actions, drive your results. And a lot of my work, my early work with individuals, is really understanding their paradigm, how they see the world, what's how they got here in the first place. Do they see the world as dangerous? Do they see it as abundant? Do they see it as scarce? And that so often is that's a belief system. of that's what's stopping them. I don't deserve this. My friends will judge me. Who am I to think that I could be doing this? I'm not enough. And or I'm an imposter. And I will say, I hope the audience sort of picks this out. I work with some really fantastic individuals. Everyone I've ever worked, I've just so enjoyed, and some really successful individuals amongst them. Everybody has a sense of I'm not enough,
Mm,
bit of an imposter. I haven't got enough time. Can I really do this? We all have that. Going back to that imperfection piece, people have got to start sort of thinking that they have to be perfect for all this. It's like that's we all feel that. And it's just really getting comfortable with getting uncomfortable about pushing through those barriers. And actually, we were before we were talking, before we came on, we did that quote, didn't we, Mike? And you
yeah.
I sent that podcast to you. I was just trying to find it actually, the Terry Real quote, which I just absolutely love. There we go. And I think you sort of picked up the last bit. Confidence is our ability to see ourselves flawed and still hold ourselves in high regard. And I think that's so much of what I do with and have done that become very comfortable with my flaws, and I have many. And I've got things in the past that maybe I'd like to have changed, but I've become very comfortable with those things that, I'm a human being. I make mistakes. And I think that quote, I think, captures so much about us as individuals. It's like embrace your imperfections, embrace your flaws, be confident with the individual that you are, and know that everybody feels in some way like I don't have enough time. I'm not enough. I'm an imposter. They just do. That's just the part of it. But the people that really make things happen are the people that get comfortable with being uncomfortable and just push through all that as well. Sorry, you had the last bit that you said actually
Yeah,
was
yeah, I think, yeah, because it's right. I think maybe it's not Terry Real because I just wrote it down here on my phone as
yeah,
the notes are going as I do sometimes. I think it's Esther Perel, the relationship guru. You
yeah,
can go on TED Talk, put Esther Perel, and you will find her. And
yeah,
she says that, perfection in a good relationship is the ability to see their flaws and still hold them in high regards. And I think she added on that in the book, and that's so powerful. How much time do we don't spend on getting frustrated with loved
yeah.
ones or people at work, or where instead, and then you said very nicely before that, just let them.
Let them. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it was a Mel Robbins quote that I saw the other day, and I thought, what a brilliant quote because somebody was getting very frustrated. I mean, I work on this the model Steve Peters model, the chimp
Yeah.
human and computer model, and we often talk about people cutting you off. And I'd seen this Mel Robbins piece, and I just said to one of the people I was working with, I said, just let them. And he's been using it all the time. He says it's amazing because he gets frustrated with his bosses and just let them.
Mm.
And it's just just a release. It's like you don't need to climb into the ring and do battle with everybody that comes across your path. You just don't. Just
No.
choose
Yeah.
battles, stay out of the ring and let them.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think it's just really, really important that people understand that this is not about perfection. It's actually the opposite. It's just embracing your imperfections, being really comfortable with who you are, and being very comfortable with having aspirations to be even more.
Yeah.
There's
I
nothing wrong with
agree.
that.
It was really good. It's really good. So yeah, so the vision work. I wanted to ask a couple more things before we round up,
Cool.
Ali. I wanted to hear because you work, besides you helping people, of course, you're working on becoming your own best self and leading it.
Yes.
So what has been one of your learnings since we talked last year? Another year's gone. What's like one of the key learnings you had taken from this year, or maybe
I think
practice first?
I think the saying, what am I saying yes to? That,
Mm,
I think that for me has been a really key learning. And I only read that quote, I think 3 or 4 months ago, but actually I really think I've been living that this year because obviously we talked about goals and I've got them all up here and, I've got a reflection next week. Okay, where am I with all those? Yeah, and I think also that I sometimes have it of perhaps not asking for as much help as I'd like as well.
Mm.
I'm very kind of, yeah, I'll go looking in books and stuff as well. And I've obviously had a coach previously and I loved it. And then I haven't had a coach for a while, but I have to say I've got some really key individuals in my life who I turn to, who actually two of them are coaches. They're great friends and people I can be incredibly vulnerable with if I want to be. And they are also really good at what they do. And I like the fact that they make me feel uncomfortable when I see a post of theirs or I hear what they're doing. I think, "God, I'd like to be doing that."
Mm.
And I love that. I love that kind of leaning in and going, right, that's going to really get me to a better place and leaning into them. And, and I think just being around giving people really. And
Yeah.
I've got such good people. So that I think that's been my learning. I still burningly ambitious and I can't get rid of that. And there's a lot I still want to achieve with the business, but I think I'm doing it a really great way as I'm just always want to be super authentic, continue to work with just amazing people. But to continue to build the business in a very organic way. I'm not in any crazy rush, don't need to be, but really go back to what I coach all the time. Enjoy the journey, enjoy the journey. Really enjoying the journey. I'm really enjoying it now. Really, really
Mm.
enjoy. Yeah.
Oh, very, very, very good learnings there. Any books you would advise people should read here in the new year we're coming up to?
Well, I mean, there's all the classics that you and I talk about. For me, there's the Atomic Habits, of course. There is. I do think the book I give to all my clients is the Path Through the Jungle, which is Professor Steve Peters. It's a big piece of work, but it's the chimp model. He wrote the chimp paradox.
Yeah.
This is more in depth. I find it really helpful for clients because we often, probably in session 4, I was a bit chimpy today, and then we talk about why the chimp was so prevalent. It's a really, really great working model to see how you're behaving in certain areas. 7 Habits, of course, but the book I'm actually reading, Mike, is I've gone back to the restaurant stuff, which is Unreasonable Hospitality: The Remarkable
Yeah, yeah,
Power
Will Guerrero, yeah.
Dara, I'm hearing so many amazing things. In fact, a couple of clients who are not in the hospitality business have recommended to me. I've just started reading, and I can see why. It's not just about the hospitality business. It's about how you should treat people,
Yeah,
and
and
how to
treat
kind of
yourself, and
treat
with
yourself.
yeah, and I think what really what I enjoy with him, he's a very successful business leader, also, like, very honest about when to stop, when is enough, when have you
Okay,
done
so
the job?
but that's what a
Yeah, that's like if anyone
when
should, because we
enough.
always think we have this belief that we have to go and continue doing things. Sometimes we also need to move on from them. One of them was he had to leave that restaurant business. That's what well, there's a really interesting last couple of chapters about that. And now he's doing this new thing where he's actually helping more people than he did before. But it's very interesting about that transition. And actually, we also, as we talked about saying no, it's also sometimes to stop something that's been a very big part of my life, maybe
Yeah.
for 15 years, 2 decades. How to when to stop.
Can I talk
Because I
about
think
Mark very quickly? Because that's a
yeah,
really just very quick point. You asked me a question, what often gets in the way: beliefs, also identity,
yeah,
about who you are. And so so my go back to my own personal journey. I was a hospitality director. That's who I was, is how I define myself, is how others define myself. I launched a really successful business, the last business we did. So it was great. So people knew me for that. And then decided to give all that up and think, right, what I really want to do is go back and contribute and coach. And I had to shed a lot of skins for that as well. And I think that's for a lot of people. A lot of people come to me for sort of, I want to change my career, I want to change my life. And like, okay, what are you willing to give up? Because in the very simple terms, you go to a party and they say, "What do you do?" That very British thing. What do you do for a living? Like, I was, and now I am.
mhm,
They're really interesting clubs because you can sort of, if you sort of take yourself out, you fly out, and you look at yourself and say, "Listen to you. Listen to what you're saying to these people. Like you're telling a load of stories because you can't quite." decide what you're gonna do. And that's also sort of peeling back and sort of letting the layers of the skin drop and say, "Okay, this is who I want to be, and I'm gonna be intentional about that, and I'm gonna own it."
Yeah,
Because that piece that people get very fixed in, "But I am a, hospitality director, or I am this, I am that."
yeah.
Okay, but when you didn't come out stamped with hospitality director, you
No.
just paying that person,
Yeah,
and those tools you can use in lots of different places. And it's the same with I'm an engineer, like, yeah, stamp engineer, off you go, down the engineer line. I'm in property, stamp. It really interesting that piece for a lot of people, because obviously that comes with lots of responsibilities and you've got mortgages and children and stuff as well, because I am this person. But actually you don't have to be that person. And that's the question a lot of people want to start to ask themselves.
yeah, and I think it's funny, like, if I should give, like, an advice that helped for me because also I went from running hospitality businesses, lots of employees, and I was always focusing on where I came from,
Yeah.
and then I can't remember who said this or read this. I started saying, "I'm ex hospitality executive,"
Oh, okay. Right.
and then now I don't even say this.
You're in
People
the
ask my
transition.
background. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's transition word, and then I said, "And now I'm focusing on trying to do this, or I'm doing this, or I'm trying to change this in the world." I don't do that anymore. But if people ask me, "So what did you do in the past?" Then I say, "I'm X," I would say, "I'm
Okay.
X
Okay.
McDonald's, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
blah, spend a decade with that." Because actually, you need to have that. You need to allow yourself for the
The
transition
bridge,
as
isn't
well.
it? Bridge over. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm X this. Oh, I used to. There is a bridge, but then there will be a point, of course, which you're doing, and
Mm,
now I'm doing, because I was the same. Yeah, I did Ollie and Steen, and like, it was still a sort of I still had to be, the ego was still playing such a big part of, like, yeah, but I am. I'm not just a coach. I'm this. I'm like,
yeah,
listen to
yeah,
you,
yeah,
bullshitting your way through this. It's like, own what you do, be intentional about it because you love what you do.
yeah,
And yeah,
yeah,
it's a bridge, and it's a bloody uncomfortable bridge. It really
yeah,
is. But actually, once you get over that bridge and leave that behind, you realize what else is available to you as well. That's
yeah,
the other thing. Well, like, you're not fixed in a box. You can be whatever you want to be once you've made that sort of that cross over the bridge. So yeah, but it's a lot of people stand at that bridge and go, I'm not sure I want to cross that, because they don't know quite how uncomfortable that place is. But yeah, it's not to sound too coach. It is a hell of a journey. It is a journey, but it's possible. Possible. You just got to lean into it and get uncomfortable about it.
yeah. And you would look back and you would think, "Should I go back?" Because actually, it looks
Yeah,
quite
that's kind of
comfortable over
cool.
there. But then,
Yeah.
then
I'm
you have to say,
uncomfortable.
Why did I leave? Why did I
Yeah,
take the first step anyway?" And then you take the
yeah,
next step, and then it gets further, further on away, and in the end, you are just have it's just an X thing I did. I'm not part of it anymore. I understand it, and I probably don't understand it because I've been away from it too long. I don't have an opinion about it. Like suddenly you get there, but it is like transition that because it's identity for many people. Definitely when they,
yeah,
as you came, on a director level, you didn't spend 3 years on it. You spent decades
yeah,
probably getting there.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's an interesting little twist here in the end. Where can people find out more about you, Ali? Connect with you if they want to hear more about vision work or anything else. Where's the best place?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of my work really is sort of mentoring and sort of confidant work, as well as doing the vision piece. So you can find me at www.allygordon, which is ALLY, GORDON.com, coaching.com, on LinkedIn, pretty much write a few articles on there. And yeah, there's on the website, if you want to, let's chat. Let's chat. There's nothing attached to that. If people are interested in just talking about potentially working together, or whatever, or just want to have a conversation, then yeah, that's how they can do it.
Good. Thank you so much, Ali, for taking
Michael,
time
thank
out
you.
again. And we hope that this will do some impact in
I hope,
people's lives
well,
out
you
there.
both.
Let us know. Let us know. Please reach
Yeah.
out to us and power and energy for the year ahead.
And you, Michael, and to all your audience as well. Have an amazing Christmas, and I can't believe it's 2024, but good luck in 2024.